Board of Supervisors and Service Authority meeting for Tuesday, September 17th. 5:31. Agenda.
Yes, I'd like to call to order the King George County Service Authority Board of Directors.
Please rise for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Sullins.
Please join me in prayer. Gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to come together tonight to be about the business of the county. Lord, I pray that the decisions we make are made with wisdom and understanding. Lord, that goodness comes from this. Lord, that our county will grow and prosper. And I pray that our conversation is honoring to you, and that we're polite to one another, and that your will be done in all this. We ask all this in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen.
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any amendments to the agenda? Seeing none. Anyone? Okay. Public comment. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person. In order to afford everyone an opportunity to speak, please provide your full name and district when submitting your public comment so it can be properly included in the public record. First, we'll go off the sheet. Pastor Davis.
Thank you. Anyway, I'm Sherman Davis, Dalkin District, and I'm here to read you a verse of Scripture. Everybody's familiar with the verse John 3:16. Not too many remember the verse of 17 and 18. By the way, Mr. Stroud, happy birthday. God bless you, buddy. And the Bible says in verse 17, "For God sent not his Son into the world to condemn the world, but the world through him might be saved. He that believeth on him is not condemned, but he that believeth not is condemned already, because he had not believed in the name of the only begotten Son of God." Jesus didn't come to condemn the world because the world was already condemned before he came. But I know most of you wasn't there at this time, but in 1829, nobody was there. George Wilson, I read a story about him, was sentenced to die for robbery and for murder. Well, the president at that time, he said in jail, the president was Andrew Jackson, and he pardoned George Wilson. The one problem was when he went to deliver the pardon, Mr. Wilson wouldn't receive the pardon. So he had to go back to court, and went to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court ruled that a pardon is not a pardon if a person doesn't receive the pardon. And so the message, of course, is that Jesus Christ has given us all a pardon. The Bible says in John chapter 1, as many as receive him, to them give he power to become the sons of God. And so it's there for everyone. We have been given life. Life is a trust that God's given us. And what we do with it is our business. And if we can do anything we want to with it, we have a free will to do and to choose. And so it's a trust. And of course, life is a test. Every day is a test in our life. Something's going on. And life is on this side of heaven is a temporary investment. And so we're invested in eternity. And what we do here, we will be rewarded for there if we trust him first. And of course, the only way we can get reward in heaven is to trust Christ down here on earth first. I had a funeral today, one of them all-day funerals. Had one Saturday and had one last week. And so I understand I've done over 1,000, I think 1,029 funerals since I've been pastor. And I understand that it's real. And everybody needs to be prepared to meet the good Lord. And we all have been pardoned. All we have to do is receive it. God bless you. I thank you for the opportunity to do this. And I'm going to get out of the way, and I'm going to go home because I'm tired. See ya. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Reverend Shaw.
James Shaw, James Monroe District, columnist for the Northern Neck Sentinel, not speaking in my capacity as an EDA member. New hat, law enforcement cheerleader. We find in our county that social media is often not a reliable witness. People are going to often make ill-informed judgments in that medium. For example, a person on social media said, and I paraphrase, that the police don't do much in this county. So I researched the numbers. Every month, you as a board of supervisors make available the Sheriff Giles monthly report of service calls. People may perceive that not much is being done. This researcher was able to point that social media critic to the online data, July 2024 report, and it deals 4,566 calls for service. Facts like these can quite easily deflate these kinds of false narratives that are out there. From town hall meetings to King George alerts to other media, there will always be room for more fundamentally accurate reporting in our county, and we are looking better and more transparent as time goes along. A few months back, I was headed south on 301. In the rearview mirror, there appears a pickup truck closing in fast. Where is Sheriff Giles and his deputies when you need them? Then the red and blue lights pop on, and I'm thinking, did my license plate fall off? Am I wearing my seatbelt? Is the tail light out? Turning on my signal, slowing down. There goes Sheriff Giles passing by me, and he's headed to a troubled family that's parked on the side of the road a couple miles ahead. He doesn't sit in the office. These public servants have to be trained and prepared for a wide variety of events, 134 of them as documented in that July report. I liken his team to a Swiss Army knife. They show up, assess the task, pull out the right tool to serve the people of King George County. Keep up the good work, everyone, and may God bless the King George Renaissance.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to make public comment? Seeing none, is there anyone online?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Did anybody receive any written correspondence? Seeing none, I will close public comment.
All right. Pursuant to State Code Section 2.23711A3 and 2.23711A8, I move that the King George County Board of Supervisors convene to close session for the discussion of the acquisition of the AWS intake, discussion or consideration of the acquisition of real property for a public purpose, or of the disposition of publicly held real property where discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body, and consultation with legal counsel employed or retained by a public body regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by such counsel. Nothing in this subdivision shall be construed to permit the closure of a meeting merely because an attorney representing the public body is in attendance or is consulted on a matter. I invite the county administrator, interim county attorney, Adam Cherry, and Sandy Cherry, plus the senior advisor, Norma Savi, and law clerk, Mary Stewart, as needed because they are deemed necessary and/or their presence will reasonably aid the board in its consideration of the topics to be discussed pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.23712F.
Second.
Properly second. Is there any discussion on the matter? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. We're now in closed session. Set. All right, our technical difficulties are fixed. Members of the board, Mr. Lee.
I'm going to keep it short. I don't have anything for this week.
Okay, thank you.
You got it.
Mr. Davis.
I'll keep mine short as well. Just want to say thanks for people coming out. Thanks for staying around during the closed session, and appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Mr. Stroud.
Yes, sir. Same thing for everybody coming out that did speak. Pastor Davis, Reverend Shaw, appreciate your comments regarding our law enforcement. I feel the same way. I'd also like to thank Mr. Smolnick and the Community Planning Office for responding quickly yesterday to get approval for one of our businesses to begin work after seemingly elongated bureaucratic delays. I know we have a lot of cleanup from the past and historic obstructionist application of the process. Fully aware that our new staff has stepped into the current workload without a pause to review, update, and adopt new and updated processes. But you guys stepped in and made things work, and I greatly appreciate it. Thanks, sir. That's all I've got, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Sullins.
Thanks, sir. So yeah, echo the thanks for the folks that came out, especially for the folks that are still here. As far as board report, attended a FAMPO meeting, Fredericksburg Area Metropolitan Planning Organization, attended a Tea Party meeting where I got to provide an update on what's going on with the county, some town hall discussions. Got some emails. We've actually been getting some emails back on the referendum. I really appreciate those. They're somewhat colorful, but I do appreciate the emails. But I would ask, stay in contact. Let's make it a dialogue, not just an angry shout out. So I'm responding to folks and offering to meet up for coffee, breakfast, whatever, phone calls, whatever. But let's talk. Let's not just yell through email and then drop it.
Thank you. Ms. Bender.
Yes, quick highlights. I got to visit Ms. Anderson's government class. I volunteer every year, well, actually each semester to go into her government class. This year it was 2 classes, a lot of insightful young adults who I invited to please come and give public comment. And it's exciting to hear the next day at the football game, 2 of the students tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Hey, I was in the class," and they said, "We really appreciated you coming, and we spent the next day looking at this topic, and then can we reach out to you to meet you sometime to ask more?" So it was really cool and engaged, and I encouraged them to please come to a board meeting and give public comment. Mr. Stroud last meeting asked a couple of questions about presidential lakes and the wells. The first question concerning the alternative septic is not a service authority issue. I have passed that on to Mr. Smolnick in community development, and it might actually be a Virginia Department of Health issue, but it is not a service authority issue. They do not have septic in that. They have their own personal septic, but not service authority septic. The second part, looking at the property, I did go and visit the next day. It is a little more complicated. There are 2 water tanks and 3 buildings, so we got to go through. There is a process to get rid of that equipment, dispose it, and possibly put it up for public sale. So that is to be continued because that is a longer process. Met with a lot of people about the easements on the Circle and Canterbury Connect and the hop yard permit, trying to solidify that and get all the easements so we can have it bid and awarded by the end of the year to fulfill the ARPA funds. And I want to thank everyone who came out to my town hall. It was a lot of robust discussion, and I love that, and that we hope to have some in the future. And anybody would like to email or comment, I'll meet anytime, like Mr. Sullivan says. And that's all I have. Thank you.
All righty. Well, thank you all for your board members' comments. We'll go to the consent agenda.
I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda 091001, 09100101, 09100102, 09100103, 09100104, 09100105, and 09100106.
Second.
Properly second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, by roll call, Mr. Davis, Mr. Stroud,
Aye.
Mr. Sullins. Aye. Ms. Bender,
Aye.
chair votes aye already.
Now I'll make a motion to approve 09/10/02 meeting minutes from September 3rd.
Second.
Properly second, is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Votes aye already. Next one is constitutional officers. Mr. Puckett's gone, right? So the rest of them are yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman of the board. First off, happy birthday, Mr. Stroud. Hope you have a great day. And I'd like to thank Reverend Shaw for his kind words and his support throughout the years. Thank you, sir. I would like to let the board know that as far as an update for the radio upgrade, we're in the last phase of that. I brought the Motorola project manager to run through a real quick PowerPoint as to where we are and the status of that. So, Sean McEwen.
So go ahead and introduce yourself, your name and your,
Yes, sir. My name is Sean McEwen. I'm the project manager for Motorola Solutions.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you again. This is my third time coming on. I really appreciate having the opportunity to be able to speak to the board and share the progress of this project. The big highlights, this is really going from a conventional system to a trunk system. And one of the biggest benefits, or two of the biggest benefits, you've been able to have 4 conversations right now with your dispatch. After this is done, that number will go up to 10. So you'll be able to have 10 simultaneous conversations with your dispatch and be able to have more conversations throughout the county. All right, so this is your current system. So right now you have a VHF dual mode conventional system, and you have 3 sites with 3 analog and 1 digital channel. So as you'll be able to see in further slides, a lot of the updates that come from here. You're going to be doubling your sites and upgrading all of your the radios that you have in your current system. All right, so this is the current coverage in the county. So this is right now what you are able to get on the streets with your portable radios. This is the new system. So as you can see, we've doubled the sites and we've upgraded all of your equipment, going from the 5500 model to the 7500 model, and increasing your dispatch sites. And these are the locations of all of your new towers. So this is when we started the project. This is your proposed coverage with your mobile radio. So these are the radios that are actually mounted inside of the vehicles. So as this was modeled with your mobile radios, it covers the entire county. Okay. Okay. All right, so this is the, when we first started the project, this was the proposed coverage for the portables on the streets. So the purple area is the area that shows coverage. All right, and this is similar, but what we were able to do is we add kind of a buffer to it to show what the signal loss would be if you were inside of a building. And this is what the coverage map looks like for the portables inside of a building. And this is actually what the new coverage came out to be. So after we did our testing, we drove around the county for 3 days with the portable radios with the new 6-site system. And this is the coverage the county will now have after the system goes live. So this is, so when we do our testing, we test it from doing both inbound and outbound. That is inbound on the left and outbound on the right. The green was passing and the red was failing. And the white were areas that we just weren't able to get to with the vehicles that we had. This is all as if it's in building. So. All right, and then this is the same on the street. So no failures when you had it on the street without being inside of a building. All right, just some pictures to show really what goes into the system. I've been working on this for a few years. This is inside of the sheriff's office. All the new antennas, the new equipment that have gone into just this one building. I didn't go around to every single building, but I want to show what the equipment setup looks like. And this is the Lucas site inside of the shelter that we have out there and all the new antennas that we mounted to the tower. All right, what's next? So we're still working on getting the schools and school buses connected to the new system. The schools and the school buses will be able to communicate directly with dispatch now, something that they were not able to do before. So they'll be able to talk to the dispatchers of the sheriff's office directly. We are going through and getting all the environmental alarms, all safety protections of the system, getting everything in place. The system is actually up and working live now. What we're making sure of is that all the protections are in place to make sure the system lasts after we're done with the project. So the next steps is cutting over the fire and rescue in the sheriff's office. And right now we're looking at an estimated completion end of October.
All righty, is there any questions? Sullivan?
So what's your timeline for getting the school buses connected as well?
We have to get the system online, so it'll be before the end of October. They'll be on before we cut over the entire system. We'll get them online because right now they're not going to be able to talk to the new system. So we want to install the radios once we know the new system is up and safe to use.
Mr. Brown,
Sure. Did you guys replace the UPSs?
Yes, sir. Every site has a UPS. So we were.
all righty. Any more questions? Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
So much. Thank
Have
you.
a good night. Sheriff, the King George County Youth Academy.
Yes, sir. Over the summer break from school, the King George Sheriff's Office held 2 youth academies, educating 73 students on criminal justice courses. The youth academies mimicked the real law enforcement academy that certifies law enforcement. Both sessions were 1 week long and 40 hours a week, Monday through Friday. The sessions included, but were not limited to, going to the Rappahannock Regional Criminal Justice Academy in Fredericksburg to see how real students were being taught. The students participated in a driving simulator and a virtual reality firearms range, shooting at virtual targets. They worked on communications and de-escalation skills, crime scene investigations, which they took to a moot court for trial, and cross-examinations of witnesses. They enjoyed the search and seizure classes and traffic stops. Lehman Howard and Kevin Armentrout were selected by their peers for the leadership awards through those sessions. The Youth Academy prepares students for the newly added U.S. Skills Criminal Justice competition in the high school. One of the parents told Senior Deputy Marini that after their child attended the Youth Academy, there was a noticeable change in their attitude at home. Another parent commented that their child attended Stanford University in California over the summer through the Envisions National Youth Leadership Forum for Law Enforcement, CSI. She stated that participating in the mock trial through the King George Sheriff's Office Youth Criminal Justice Academy provided her with a basic foundation of criminal law, which assisted her in both direct and cross-examinations during the competitive mock trial, where her team won first place. My school resource officers are already fielding requests for next summer's youth academies. I would be remiss if I didn't publicly thank our sponsors for the 2 sessions: Dr. Wendy Moore, Lisa Mohammed, Domino's, Pizza Bono, Subway, Chick-fil-A, Food Lion, Sheetz, Tabernacle Baptist Church for providing transportation to the academy, and the academy for allowing us to go up there and participate. So with the board's permission, I'd like to show a real short video from the 2 sessions.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Teaching students about law enforcement is more than just education. It's about building a bridge to our future. Welcome to the Youth Criminal Justice Academy, where we focus on helping our youth make positive changes. Through mentorship, skills training, and guidance, we empower youth to build better futures and make responsible choices. Join us in making a lasting difference in their lives and our community. They learn the importance of physical fitness. Officers who are physically fit are better able to respond to emergencies and protect the public. Students were also able to understand the reasons behind traffic laws. Students practiced how to safely conduct a traffic stop, which is crucial to protecting both officers and civilians, reducing risk, and building trust within the community. Experiencing the effects of alcohol with drunk goggles was a real eye-opener.
Where am I standing?
As part of their hands-on learning experience, students in the Youth Criminal Justice Academy stepped into the role of investigators. From analyzing evidence to reconstructing crime scenes, they gained practical insights into the methods used to solve real-world cases.
We had our disagreements, but Casey was my best friend. I would have never done anything to hurt him.
Students learned how to identify fingerprints and learned about evidence collection, all which played a part in their testimony for a mock trial. Youth took on the roles of judge, lawyers, witnesses, and jury. They presented their case, cross-examined witnesses, and gained valuable insight into the legal process while developing critical thinking, public speaking, and teamwork skills. Afterwards, students toured the courthouse and learned about the importance of security in ensuring a safe and orderly environment. Students visited the Rappahannock Regional Criminal Justice Academy for an immersive experience, where they toured the facility and observed local law enforcement recruits in action.
Not a student driving the car for work.
They learned the critical importance of safe driving skills for emergency vehicles and participated in hands-on training at a virtual reality indoor shooting range, gaining practical insights to law enforcement operations and safety protocols. In our defensive tactics training, students practiced crucial techniques for self-defense and safe apprehension. They also learned effective methods for conducting searches and making arrests, gaining essential skills for maintaining safety and order in various situations. Students witnessed the remarkable skills of a trained police dog in action. They saw how this loyal partner assists in searches, apprehensions, and detecting substances, highlighting the vital role canine units play in law enforcement. Through their time at the Youth Criminal Justice Academy, students gained invaluable skills and knowledge. They participated in hands-on training, explored real-world scenarios, and developed a deeper understanding of law enforcement. Their achievements include enhanced critical thinking, teamwork, and practical skills that will guide them in their future endeavors. In a profession that is struggling to maintain interest due to perceived risk and negative perceptions, this program opens students' eyes, promoting growth and opportunity for their future.
Questions?
Any questions from the board? Thank you, appreciate that. That's
Yes, sir. Thank
very,
you.
very good. Ms. Bender?
Yes, I'd like to now go to the King George County Service Authority Board of Directors. Do I have a motion for the consent agenda?
Make a motion to accept the consent agenda as is.
Have a second?
Second.
Have a motion properly seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oh, wait a minute, roll call, sorry. Lee?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
TC?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. Bowden, Mr. Mark and Bowden has come up with our monthly report. I had come out in the audience earlier, does a really good report, slim it down a little due to time.
Certainly. Madam Chair, and members of the board. Good to be here with you. We have a couple slides we'll go through, just some general highlights of the water and wastewater operations. We provided the monthly report with all the charts and graphs. One thing that I will highlight, we have noticed a high volume of water usage, mainly in the Dahlgren system. We're upwards to nearly 11 million gallons of water production, with primarily Saft well number 2 taking the brunt of that hit. If you look on page 6 of your utility report, you can kind of see the graph, but trending for the last 12 months here, we are over double of what we really should be at this time. So that is a concern. We've reached out to Virginia Rural Water, and they are providing some assistance in order to track and locate some of these leaks. And so more information will come as provided. So I just wanted to bring that to your all's attention as an item of concern. So go to the next slide. This thing's not working. It's on. There it is. All right, so on the water system, for the St. Paul system, we had a capacitor and a starter that had to be replaced. We've provided lead and copper sample kits, DCLS sample kits to the various customers that were in the lead and copper sampling plan. We are waiting for those samples to come back. The customers themselves have to collect it. There's a certain process and procedure that they have to follow that we provided. We did have issues at the Fairview Beach water treatment plant with the backwash. It was being very inefficient, and we were not seeing good recoveries from our backwashes. We inspected the media, and we found that there was an air scour valve that had clogged. The King George County maintenance crew did replace the valve, and they also cleaned out any and all media that was in the airline piping. For wastewater, the belts were replaced on the sludge press at the Dahlgren wastewater plant. The drive chain on rotor motor number 4 was replaced, and also the number 4 mixer was replaced. We had some repairs due to the hop yard mixer number 2 SBR that was repaired by the King George County Maintenance. At Perkins, there was a waste activated sludge line that was cleaned out from Plant B. We also drained and cleaned an oxic zone to clean out residual sludge and solids that were accumulating in that tank. We had high TSS values for the month of August, and we had to reroute the flow from the pre-anoxic directly into the aeration basin, essentially bypassing a portion of the treatment until the mixer can be reinstalled. Oakland Park, we had the blower technicians come out and do some PMs. Other PMs were performed. One of the main things to highlight at the Oakland Park plant is we are still waiting for the media rebedding for the sand filter B. That is causing some inefficiencies in TSS and phosphorus removal, and we are working with the King George County Maintenance to get that completed. Our team drained and cleaned the post EQ, as well as replaced the faulty UV system components for Fairview plant. And then the maintenance department did come in and they replaced a level transducer in the on-site pump station. And so I know there's a lot of information. All this information is pulled directly from the reports that we provide, but happy to take any questions if you have them.
Thank you very much. Mr. Collins?
So you mentioned the Dahlgren water has doubled.
Yes, sir.
And it's
Over doubled.
And it's through leaks or usage.
So that is hard to determine. We can determine that. I have asked Patty to provide water meter reading billing records so we can do a water loss audit. We don't have access to those records, so I've asked her to provide those, and so she said that she would. My theory is that there's no way that this would be through increased usage. This has to be through various leaks in the distribution system.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Bender?
Go ahead.
Could you make sure that Ms. Norris gives them the information pronto?
Mm-hmm.
So we can find out where these leaks are at?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Collins. Anybody else have any questions? Questions? I'll take care of them, Mr. Collins. Thank you
Thank you.
very much. Two things before we get to Mr. Rasavi and on the regulations is I want to bring out, I thank Ms. Cook and her staff woman, Ms. Austin. Let's get his last name wrong, but they have been very diligent about disposing of the vehicles that are on the service authority lot and some county vehicles, and they've made a lot of progress. I'm amazed at what you can sell online, including an old pump truck that needed a new engine. And so I just wanted everybody to know, I know Mr. Collins is very involved in that, to make sure we get rid of vehicles we don't need anymore. So it is going good. We've collected, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Cook, is $12,750 so far from the disposal of the vehicles. And we have sold some, but that we just have not received the money. And that totals about $21,975 once we collect the cash that hasn't come in yet. I got those numbers right, correct? So I just wanted to get that out there to everybody. Mr. Rasavi, you're up next with looking at the new regulations, and I appreciate Mr. Rasavi and Mr. Stewart's attention to this. Done a lot in the review of everything we've been doing with the Service Authority. It has come to our attention that our regulations needed to be updated and added to, and so Mr. Rasavi is going to talk about what's been done, and then we'll take some questions.
Well, a lot of the review by Mr. Stewart's legal team, primarily Mary, I believe, reviewed and made a lot of the corrections, which you can see are in red in the report. But I want to highlight some of the more significant changes that we dealt with. One, we added an introductory section to the regulations because in speaking with a lot of people who were inquiring about service and so forth, we thought that to add that as an overall guide for somebody who's coming into the county looking to try to figure out how they get those type of services. The second thing is we updated the definition of an apartment to conform with the Code of Virginia. Although the document had been amended numerous times over the years, the enforcement may have caused a problem because it was not in accordance with what the state code defined as an apartment. So we modified that so it would be in conformance. We also put the definition in of an equivalent residential connection, often referred to as an ERC, to provide a better understanding of the term. And it just gives an example that a residence is assigned 300 gallons. So say if you had a restaurant that was 5 times that, that person would be getting the equivalent of 5 bills and so forth. So it's to equalize the playing field of someone who's a large user and having a significant amount of volume of water that they use. We also deleted the 5, 6, and 8-inch meters that were listed in there. Those that was determined that those were not used by the service authority. So we simply cleaned that up and removed them since it was unnecessary and confusing to some of the users of the regulations. We also clarified the application of the equivalent residential connection throughout the document. One of the problems that I spotted was the capital reserve fee was only being applied once to those people who had multiple EDUs, but your debt service fee and for both the sewer and water were done in multiples of ever how many EDUs. So that roughly, I believe Levita calculated, it was roughly a loss of $60,000 a year for, say, the past 3 years, that was not properly applied. So we have changed the language to make it uniform, because some of the resolutions that were adopted included it, but there was some interpretation of the way it was written that they seemed to think it was unclear. But so we have clarified that. So the $2.48, if you have 10 EDUs, it's times 10. And what those funds are for is for the maintenance and capital replacement of items that go on all the time in a public utility system. We also eliminated Section 31, which is the septic waste disposal, since the King George Service Authority had discontinued that acceptance a number of years ago. And I think throughout the Northern Neck, I don't believe there's any plant that accepts septage. And the reason being is, and I'm sure Mark can attest to this, when you dump 20, 30-year septage into an operating plant, if you dump very much of it, you're going to have a lot of problems on your hands. So I think at least most of the plants that I'm familiar with have discontinued accepting that. I think maybe down in Hampton Roads and somewhere in Northern Virginia, they have facilities which are much larger facilities to treat that. So that was eliminated from the document because the authority hadn't been doing it for years. So there's no sense of having something in there that was not a fact taking place. Then also in unison with the county attorney, there were some criminal penalties in there which really didn't make sense. Matter of fact, some of the citations didn't even conform with what the state code said. And so in my discussions with the county attorney, first of all, if something like that happened, you would go to the sheriff's department or state police agency, and it would go through the Commonwealth attorney under the regular statute for destruction of property or trespassing or whatever. So we've clarified all that and hopefully simplified the regulations so when people are reviewing them, either for residential or commercial purposes, they'll be more clearly understood. So I believe at the next meeting, we would ask for the adoption of those. And I don't know if you normally do public hearings on those. I couldn't find where that has been done, and I'll talk briefly.
My recollection was the statute did not require it. You all could adopt it by resolution. That's what we determined.
And that's all I have.
Thank you very much for your work. And do I have any question from board members? This discussion, it gives you a little bit more time to look it over for more specific questions for the next board meeting. Does anybody have any questions? Thank you, Mr. Wasabi, thank you, Mr. Stewart, and thank you, Mary, for doing that work because it was a hefty document to read and look over and revise. So we want to thank staff for that. Next up is Ms. Kimberly Cook with the Pump and Well Service procurement.
Good evening, Madam Chairman and members of the board. Procurement issued an invitation for bid to solicit responses from qualified firms to obtain bids for the drilling and testing of a new well located by the existing Potomac Landing well. One bid was received from Tawana Well and Pump Service Incorporated in the amount of $187,000. This project is funded by the Virginia Department of Health ARPA Fund. Staff recommendation, authorize the Service Authority Board of Directors designee to execute a construction services agreement with Tawana Well and Pump Service Incorporated in the amount of $187,000, subject to approval as deformed by the county attorney.
Do we have any questions? Mr. Solons?
So we only got one bid?
One bid.
That's just one response. That doesn't mean we only went to one person though, right?
We reached out to other companies, and one of the comments we received was that they did not want to bid because of the amount of risk the drilling contractor would be assuming, but he didn't provide much detail to that.
Okay. Any idea how this compares to other similar projects? Is it a fair price?
As far as my understanding, it was well below what was budgeted, so I would think that would be a fair price.
Do you have any other questions concerning this? Thank you very much. It'll come back, and these are very important because this is an ARPA fund project, correct? And I just want to make sure the board aware is we're going to have a lot of these coming up because we have to have the bids award. Correct me if I'm getting this information right. The bids awarded, we don't have to actually start the work, but the bids have to be awarded and the contract signed before the end of the calendar year, correct?
That's correct.
So we're going to be seeing a lot of these come in the next board meetings to get these done.
Madam Chair, I think
Go
it's
ahead.
December 1st.
December 1st.
Yeah, so you don't quite have till the end of the year.
Correct.
You got a month less than that.
Yes, and then I also want to, Ms. Cook, thank you very much. I want to make my board aware, there will be one item, the easements, the interconnect, that will be coming on December 1st, and it will be a discussion and an action at the same time. And that's, we're not before, at the meeting, you'll have to make a decision at that time, because there's just no way we can have a discussion and an action and get it done in the proper amount of time. So I just want to make everybody aware, so stay tuned. All right, next up in my, I'm going to do a quick monthly report. I just want to make a comment about the fog inspection. Our fog inspector has gone out to all of the restaurants involved, and he's explaining everything, going to them and showing them the signage to be used, giving them copies of the signs, the ordinance, and helping them register, get online. And he will be going back in 2 to 3 weeks, to inspect again, do like what he calls a live inspection. I did have a piece of paper with more information, but I've misplaced it in my stack here, so I'll give a further report at the next board meeting that gives a little bit more detail. So with that being said, I'm going to go to, does anybody have any questions before I go to the public comment? All right, this is the secondary public comment. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person in order to afford everyone an opportunity to speak. Please provide your full name and district when submitting your public comment so that they can be properly recorded and included in the public record. Is there anybody in the audience who has any public comment? Right, is there anybody online, Mr. Dines?
No, Madam Chair.
Has anybody received any correspondence since they've been sitting up here? All right, with that being said, can I have a motion for adjournment?
Make a motion that we adjourn until October 1st, 2024, sorry, at 5:30 PM in the boardroom of the Rivercomb Building.
Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion properly seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, and Bowden, for coming. Mr. Collins?
Ready? Back to the Board of Supervisors agenda, presentations, Dahlgren Heritage Museum, Dr. Gates.
Thank you for giving me some time tonight to tell you who we are and what we're up to. This all started when the base commander convened a meeting of local folks in summer of 2010 to present her idea for a community-run, nonprofit, off-base museum. She must have done a pretty good job because the foundation was formed about 2 months later at the end of the summer, and the paperwork submitted for a nonprofit 501c3, which we've received. The short version of our mission is to preserve the history of the Navy in Dahlgren and surrounding communities in support of economic development and tourism. So we've tried to do that a number of ways. The most visible way probably is our museum, which is in the old Potomac Gateway Visitor Center on 301 at the foot of the Harry Nice Bridge. But beyond that, we also have a mission to do education. Now, history is obvious. We've had a number of papers published in journals and other places. We presented papers at history conferences. But and we also do community forums where we have panel discussions of topics in Dahlgren and King George history. An important part of that, though, is STEM education. We have taken a big role in STEM education. We work with the STEM program on the base, and we do STEM events at the museum. We support Mary Washington and their most and the STEM events they've done the past few years. So, and we support Eagle Scouts and various projects that they do. So we've done a number of community things as well. We knew right from the beginning that we weren't going to get any money from the Navy. The Navy History and Heritage Command had changed their policy about the time we started. So we knew it was going to fall on us to do fundraising, to get grants, and so on. And we did that primarily through partnerships. We set out to establish a number of partnerships to help us do that. One of the key partnerships at the very beginning was with Virginia Tourism. That's how we got the building. And it had been closed for 6 or 7 years, so they had to renovate the restrooms and various things like that before we could move into it. We got grants from Walmart and Dominion, thanks to some of our local politicians, for a total of over $70,000, which helped us turn the building into a museum. So we've had the support of the Northern Neck Tourism. They had noticed how tourism fell off in the Northern Neck when the visitor center closed. So they were very interested in us being in the building and becoming a tourist information center for VTC. And they supported us financially for a number of years with a donation every year. We've also gotten support from the Board of Supervisors through the Tourism Fund for 2 or 3 events that we've done over the years when we put in proposals. We also have gotten really good at submitting submitting grant proposals that have been accepted. But we knew we had to do that. We've had a good partnership with Mary Washington, so we can have our events at the Dahlgren campus. We have a good, strong relationship with the Historical Preservation Department at the undergraduate campus downtown in Fredericksburg, and they've supported us with a steady stream of with a steady stream of interns over the years. We started by giving them honoraria of about $250. In recent years, we've actually, because of grants we've gotten, we've actually paid them. Now we don't pay them. We pay a minimum wage, but that's pretty good for a college student, I guess. And we've gotten a lot from them as well. They've been a very beneficial program. We've also, while we didn't get money from the Navy, we have gotten support from the Navy and Dahlgren. Many of the artifacts that we got to open the museum are on loan from the Navy. They also let us do base tours once a month between March and October. If you haven't been on one, there's one this Saturday. And we've been there, and so we've been able to, but with our partnerships and a very strong board, we've been able to do a number of good things. Now, we were moving right along. We were seeing visitation numbers go up. We were getting attendance at our events. And then COVID hit. And like everybody else, we shut down for about 3 months. We also had to stop all of our community outreach, the various programs, the STEM program, the forums, and so on, because groups weren't gathering. Even after we reopened on a reduced schedule after about 3 months, those events didn't come back very quickly. And if that wasn't enough, bridge construction started at the same time. And the highway changes made it difficult to get into the museum. The construction company staged equipment and materials in our parking lot. So as hard as we tried to make people know we were open with big signs and everything else, we looked awful closed. And our visitation numbers took a huge hit. Now, but we took that opportunity to ask ourselves as a board, when we reopen, what do we have to do differently? What should the museum look like in the 21st century? So we did some research, and we discovered, among other things, that the demographics for museum visitors is changing. That it's not enough just to have a building. You've got to be, if you have a building, you have to give people a reason to visit you, and more importantly, a reason to come back. You also have to get very active, and you have to get very active virtually, and you have to be out in the community. You have to be mobile. So we got together and did some serious strategic planning, and we put together a strategic plan with actions that we follow. We monitor every board meeting. We meet every year in the strategic planning session to look at what we've accomplished, when we've completed things, what do we put in their place to keep moving forward? So we have a very active process, and it's been working. Since COVID and since the bridge construction ended, we've done a number of things. In the building itself, we've committed to at least one new exhibit every year. and we've done that. We started with the pioneers of the 20th century, looking at pioneers in Dahlgren history. We've done 3 of those. We also have a new exhibit opening on naval aviation at Dahlgren. We restarted our community outreach. We've been doing forums again. We've have been sponsoring events in the county. Most recently this weekend, dueling pianos at the estates at Whitehall. We've also restarted our STEM programs at the museum. We've done a couple more Eagle Scout projects, and most importantly, in some ways, is we worked our relationship with the Historic Preservation Department. We've had 2 class projects where they developed mobile exhibits for us that give Dahlgren history from 1918 to 1945, and then 1945 to 1975. We have a project coming up next spring where they'll extend it to 2000. We've also have a new website. We're digitizing all the base newspapers with interns, and we're going to digitize the Dahlgren Technical Digest. It'll be a searchable database on all that information. On all of that information, and we've resumed our bus tours. We've had a lot of new partnerships, and you can see our attendance in 24, our attendance in 23 was going up. We look to do better in 24 than in 23. Our visitation on our Facebook and Instagram and on our website are all going up. And not just locally, although predominantly locally. We have a presence in Indonesia for some unexplainable reason. It used to be China, but they lost interest in us somewhere along the line. So we've seen the results of all this progress is happening. Now, there are a number of things we have planned for the future years. One of our new Eagle Scout projects, she's developing a virtual STEM lab that we're going to host on our website. So that'll be something new. We're also going to start working with an intern this fall to develop our first virtual exhibit. There will be an exhibit on the website, not in the museum. And so we're exploring some new things. We're working on some new partnerships. Now, there are a couple things we've talked to the county about off and on over the years that we still think are good ideas. Back before COVID, the Economic Development and Tourism had a concept design for a love sign. Went down all on 301 when you come off the bridge. It was a Dahlgren-oriented love sign. That hadn't happened, and frankly, it couldn't go in the same place now because the new access road to the bridge is where the sign would have been. But we still think that's a good idea for attracting visitors. We're the first thing people see when they come into Virginia headed south on 301. We think that would be a very beneficial thing. The other thing is I know from firsthand experience, there are 2 paths through the woods from Barnesfield to the museum. Now, they're not in very good shape. If it rains, it's wetland, so you don't want to go in there if it's rained lately. But people have used it to go from Barnesfield when there's softball and baseball tournaments to come to the museum. And we think it would be very beneficial to develop that path so where it's actually usable and walkable and accessible to people with mobility issues. And we've been talking to Parks and Rec about that for some time. We think that's a very good idea and would be beneficial to people using Barnesfield as well as the museum. So we're coming back from the hit we took during COVID and bridge construction. Things are looking better than ever. We have some new ideas. We've got people. We've got very good at getting grants. We've been able to fund a lot of the activities through grants. We endowed a STEM scholarship that's administered for us by the Community Foundation in the Rappahannock River region. That gives a scholarship to a graduate of King George High School who's going to major in a STEM field. So we have a lot of things going on. We affect and impact the community in a number of ways. We're visible at county events. So we just wanted you to know that we're here. We're part of the community. We think we're a beneficial part. And we look forward to working with you on some of these other things and any other ideas that may benefit the county. So thank you again for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Ms. Bender, could you take the gavel?
Yes. Want me to continue on, Mr. Collins? Right. I just want to thank Mr. Gates. I'm on the Dahlgren Heritage Museum Board, and I want to thank him because they've done a lot. And I used to give them a hard time, but when they had to go to virtual, they've done an awesome job making a virtual museum. So I just want to thank them. I will move on now to the Rappahannock Area Community Services Board Performance Contract. Mr. Joseph Wickens, Executive Director. Is he here?
He's not, so.
Go ahead. Introduce yourself.
Yes, my name is Brandy Williams. I'm the Deputy Executive Director of the Rappahannock Area Community Services Board.
Thank you. Do you have anything to present or?
Yes, well, I don't have a presentation, but
Go right
Joseph
ahead.
Wickens was here at your last meeting to review the requirement for your consideration to approve entering into the performance contract with the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services. This requires approval of all of our localities in order to enter in that contract to access our state funding. And so today, I believe that is up for action and vote by the board.
Does anybody have any questions before I call for a motion? Mr. Stewart?
Madam Chair, I was just going to say it's probably less of a contract and it's more of the requirements of adherence that we have to do in order to receive these state funds. Kind of the way I view it.
Absolutely.
You want the money, you got to sign it.
Absolutely. By September 30th.
Gotcha. Does anybody have any questions? Or would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the performance contract for Rappahannock Area Community Services Board as submitted.
Do I have a second?
Second.
This is a roll call vote? All right. Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Stroud?
Aye.
Mr. Solms?
Aye.
Mr. Collins?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Thank you. I'm going to hand it back over to Mr. Collins.
Thank you. Next one is 913, award of professional service agreement for property assessment service of real property in King George County. Ms. Cook?
Good evening again. So yes, this is the award of professional services agreement for property assessment services for real property in King George. Staff's recommended action: authorize the county administrator to execute a professional services agreement with Wampler Eanes Appraisal Group in the amount of $482,912.05, subject to approval as to form by the county attorney. The current budget amount in the FY25 operating budget for this project is $380,872. Therefore, staff recommends the board authorizes a budget supplemental from the general fund balance to the Commissioner of Revenue's reassessment services line in the amount of $102,049.
Any questions? Questions? Is there a motion? You want to separate that motion?
Mr. Chairman, I think there's probably three there. You gotta, approve the contract, subject to my review, authorize that transfer, and then authorize whomever's going to enter that contract to enter into it.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to authorize the county administrator to execute a professional service agreement with Wampler Eanes Appraisal Group in the amount of $482,921.05, subject to approval as to the form by the county attorney. The current budget amount in FY25 operation budget for this project is $380,872.
I would stop there and then make another one.
Second.
Properly second. Is there any discussion? By roll call. Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Stroud?
Aye.
Mr. Sullins?
Aye.
Ms. Bender?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Next one, Mr. Davis. Motion on that.
What's it gonna be? I just closed it out.
Mr. Chairman,
So you open that.
so I believe the next motion that we're going to need is to authorize the Board of Supervisors for a budget supplement transfer from the general fund balance to the Commissioner of Revenues reassessment service line item in the amount of $102,049.
So moved.
Second.
Properly second by roll call, Mr. Davis.
Aye.
Stroud.
Aye.
Sullins.
Aye.
Ms. Bender.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. And the third one,
Going to see.
you got to authorize somebody.
Mr. Davis did 2 and 1 on the first one. That was fine.
Okay.
His first motion included approval and authority to enter into it.
All right. I think we've covered all that. Thank you.
Thank you.
9:14,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. So this item was presented last month by Mr. Clark. So this is the TAP award that we received from VDOT July 1st of 2024 in the amount of $856,458. There is a local match in the amount of $214,114. There was some question at the September 3rd Board of Supervisor meeting about this match. The historical documentation has been presented to you, going back a number of years through CIP requests, board meetings, and presentations made to previous boards, indicating there would be, the specific dollar amount wasn't there. It was I saw a 20% up to a 30% match. So it was discussed, and I just wanted to present that information to the Board of Supervisors as this was a question. So if the board is comfortable with this, it would be, this would actually be in addition to 09-17, the CIP. This would be included in the CIP budget. So I'm happy to answer any questions right now. We may want to table anything on this, or if you're comfortable with it right now, we'll just need to add 214-114 to the CIP number later on in the agenda, Mr. Chairman.
okay. Yes, sir.
Matt, do you mind summarizing what this is? For $200,000, what do we get?
So this is a local match. This was a multi-step process for the Board of Supervisors, or for county staff to apply for the grant. We applied for the grant, we were awarded the grant, and then there's a local match to this. A lot of these transportation grants do have a local match component, 15, 20, 30%. So this is for sidewalk and crosswalk improvements at Dahlgren and Route 3 for the pedestrians. A lot of students in that area crossing over maybe before and after school to the Sheets. This is phase 1. I believe this is a 4-phase project going east on Route 3, starting at this intersection. This would be phase 1 for really crosswalk improvements and for pedestrian safety and mobility.
We don't necessarily have to go through with phases 2, 3, and 4 if we do this,
No,
right?
this one is just for phase 1.
Just for crosswalk.
And sidewalk.
Crosswalks and sidewalks going north on Dahlgren up into the first vehicular access cut to the east into the middle school.
About 30 feet, 40 feet.
I think it's longer than that. I don't have a scale on this, but it starts just north of Route 3, the northeast quadrant of the Dahlgren 3 intersection, and it goes up until the depth of that gas station, and you see the 4 or 5 semis parked there parallel. That's the approximate distance. I don't have a scale, but it's several hundred feet if I were to look at that.
All righty. Any other questions?
Mr. Chair, question be recognized.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. So do you happen to know, sir, if this, because I failed to ask Mr. Clark whenever he's briefing the last board, does it include the ability for whenever the kids are crossing to like push the button or something and control the signal? Do you know?
I don't know the exact answer to that, but like you'd see more in an urban setting, that is a very valuable tool. I do not know if this includes that.
I think there's already a button there.
Already there.
So it's already there.
Yeah, I think I mean, because it's a significant amount of money, but they're contributing the other half. So we're only talking about half for a scenario whenever that corner where the gas station is gets built out. I mean, I see a lot of probably kids are going to be crossing over there, and they already do to the sheets. So even though it's a lot of money, I see some utility in having a safer situation because, you know, I've seen people that I think from out of town, and definitely some big trucks roll through there. They have a hard time stopping at that red light. They ain't paying attention. So as well as people that are trying to cross lanes to turn into sheets, and or even making the turn and people trying to cross the road. So, you know, I've seen may see some utility in that. So that's just my comments.
I go through that intersection a lot, before school, during school, and after school, and I don't really see that many kids crossing the street to Sheets. I think the $247,000 of citizens' money is a little bit too much for us to be paying for crosswalks in that location. Ms. Bender?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I have to disagree with you. As someone who spent 3 years dropping their kid off every morning at the middle school and now at the high school, I've seen so many kids almost get hit a couple times because they're crossing from Presidential Lakes. I've even seen some students walk all the way down from near the Dollar General area and come all the way up and come up to that spot. So my concern is to make it safer for the children, especially those that walk to school. So many kids, they come before practice and they go over to Sheets, and then you see them make dangerous moves over. I mean, you can't control that, but I think anything we can do to help the kids, use it. And you use it, and it's a positive thing, and we do not need to do all four parts, but this part is a very dangerous area, especially for students. So, I mean, it is a match. All smart scales usually have a 20% match, and we knew that going in. You and I were on the board when it happened. I think we should continue and finish it out because, you know, we agreed to it.
Davis?
My only concern would be, it is a high dollar. There are a lot I think there are kids that cross there, but in rejecting or not doing it, then it hurts us with future endeavors of working with them as far as meeting the match, and they frown very much upon that. So we're kind of, we've already talked about it in years, but we didn't, but the board did. So it's kind of, it's almost like your hands are tied in a sense.
Felons?
I agree with what he said there, that they have a corporate memory, and if we push back on this, we've already been pushing back on the no U-turn thing on 301, which I agree with that one. But I feel like this could really hurt our reputation with VDOT. And I have actually seen, I don't know if it was a team or what, but I mean, I've seen visitors to the school there go across and come back again to get food. And I'm not talking like, 2, 3 kids. I'm talking a group of like 20, 30 people all dressed the same, so it clearly was some kind of an out of town group or event that was visiting. So yeah, I think this would be a good investment in our kids.
All righty.
One more thing, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, sir.
Sorry, Mr. Stewart. I also think there's going to be a way in the future for, as that area develops and grows, that there's going to be a way to recoup funds and things that we're investing into that right now.
Right.
I'll get into detail.
Mr. Chairman, it looked like there was a resolution adopted at some point, and I do know when you do that with these programs with VDOT, if you then decide not to go through with it, they charge back any scoping costs that they do, engineering costs, et cetera. So I just want the board to know that if you don't go through with it, it may cost you money anyway.
Okay. Pleasure of the board.
Which part, Mr. Stewart, can you help me out with the motion here? Because there's a lot of stuff on here. Which do we need a motion for this part? Or is it wrapped into the CIP?
14.
So ma'am, this will be wrapped into the CIP, the later item. I do believe we needs to approve a match, there's authorized the county administrator to transfer 214-114 to the TAP project fund. And then to sign authorize the county administrator to sign the VDOT administered locally funded project administration agreement. And then authorize the county administrator to create a TAP project fund. So those are the recommended actions. Really, and first of all, you need to accept the transportation alternatives award. That was back in July, 856,458, of which this is a 214-114 match.
So, Mr. Stewart, can I say so moved?
As our person is clear on that, essentially you're just authorizing the match tonight.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to make sure we had the right language.
There's already been a resolution entered to support this, so it's the match that they need, I think, tonight.
Okay, so moved.
There's a second?
Second.
Properly second. Mr. Davis by roll call.
Aye.
Mr. Stroud.
Aye.
Mr. Sullins.
Aye.
Aye.
All ready? Next one's 9:15. I don't have to vote if it's already passed. Chairman never has to vote unless it's a tie. So 9:15. I don't have any problem voting nay. So motion passes. 9:15.
Good evening, members of the board. This was presented to you all last meeting. This is the update on the tourism grant program, which we are now rephrasing as a sponsorship grant program. Same thing, this will have better checks and balances on this program. This will have a cap at $10,000 for any applicants. We'll review all applications at one time for the upcoming fiscal year. I did speak with Mr. Smolnik briefly on the question I asked last meeting to the board, and he and I came with a plan. I'll use an example of what's going on right now to explain the plan and if the board is amenable to that. So essentially, we were contacted by a event that wanted some sponsorship from the department. In previous years, sponsorships were being allocated in the not the best fiscally responsible line item, and we'd like to be better moving forward, that it would come out of the same line item as this grant program. And so for that, if it would need to go before the board, for example, if the sponsorship program was approved tonight, then I would have to come to the board meeting next meeting to present it to the board, and then the meeting after that, the board would be able to take action to approve or deny the sponsorship. And this is a regular sponsorship package asking for $500 to put our logo and do advertising for us and give us a booth at their event. It's not typically what we would see for the grant program specifically. And so in that scenario, we told the event that we wouldn't be able to approve it until the week before the event. And in that scenario, then the county wouldn't be getting any of the benefit out of the sponsorship. So basically, we'd just be giving them free money and no advertising out of the sponsorship. And so the recommendation would be for the board, if they're okay with this, for staff to have the discretion, if there are leftover funds from the grant program, that we could take existing sponsorship packages and approve based off of what's best use for the money and the return on investment of that advertising. So for example, right now we have some leftover funds because there haven't been any grant applications. Next year, if we do a grant process and there are no funds in that line item, then we would not ask to approve any of those funds. What would happen would be I would just take note of what's been asked that year, and that would go into the process for the next year about whether or not we would increase funds for that line item for the grant program. But if there were funds left over after you guys approve the grant process, then it would be the discretion of staff to give funds to the existing sponsorship programs. This is very confusing because there's a lot of sponsorship being thrown around. So I'm happy to clarify if you have any questions about the overall program or what I just tried to explain.
I would prefer that leftover funds the board would vote on where that would go.
That's fine if that's what the consensus is. The only thing to think about in that scenario is there are events that have existed if the new process is approved as is. There are events that have existed more than 5 years, for example, Fall Festival. If they wanted a regular sponsorship from the county, just asking for, like example, $500 to have a booth at the event and throw our logo on their advertising, then that would have to either go before the board or however you just described, Chair. That would be wherever you guys decide those funds to go. And it would just take up to 2 months potentially for that approval process.
So because someone didn't, or people didn't apply for the grant, then other people would get more money?
So there's 2 different examples. So we have people applying for the grant, which is up to $10,000 for new events or new additions to existing events. And then there's also sponsorship packages where people just ask for advertising. So that's the normal tiered thing that you see. So if someone asks for $500 for one tier and it's just your logo is put on their social media, then there's like another tier where your logo is put on the social media, but also on banners and also on radio ads. And you've got those different tiers. That's the other part that we're discussing, what the board would like staff to do with. And that's kind of the confusion of how you guys would like us to move forward.
So I would like the money, the extra money, or for the board to decide where that would go. What do you all think?
Well, sir, if you recognize me, I feel like the money has been, it's identified, it's allocated to them for use. And currently, with the people we have there now, I'm much more confident in the people running it today than previously. And I feel like that would maybe make it more, the process more bureaucratic and add delays, unnecessary delays. If right now the process with the people we have working are doing a better job and Mr. Smolnik is overseeing it, then I'm confident with their abilities in the recommendation that's being made. That's myself. We always retain the ability to ask for more information on it or maybe to change that, but I feel confident right now that they're making good decisions and that's what we're paying them to do. So I like it. Thank you, ma'am.
Anyone else?
Mr. Collins, I would have to agree with Mr. Stroud and just a report to the board because the way you've structured the program and your staff, it's a great improvement.
I am more than happy to, if we get an application and we say that we're going to choose X, Y, and Z tier, to just let Mr. Smolnik tell you and then give that in a report to the board, just so you guys are aware of what we've chosen. But you'll be aware of how much money is left over because we're approving the grants at one time. So for example, right now, the fund is a little less than $65,000 a year. And in the past fiscal years, we have been spending triple that. And so moving forward, we will be making sure that that stays low. Probably more like 2.5 times that. Triple is probably a little high.
No, you're probably about right. No, I appreciate it. Just as the report, so if someone asks, we will be able to give that information. So thank you for what you've done.
And if it gives, oh, sorry.
On you.
Yeah.
Are you waiting?
I was going to make a motion, sir.
Could I ask a quick question, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I wasn't sure. I've looked at a lot of this for Amy, but the provision you were just explaining where there's money left over and you all want discretion to do that is actually language in the program?
No, that was more of just if you guys wanted to have a consensus among the board of an internal process for us to manage. It's not written in the program. The program is specific to discussing the grant application. Specifically, the reason why this got brought up of an internal process is because in years past, when events would come and ask for sponsorship, they just kind of got put in different line items, and the proper line item is to share the same line item as the grants. So instead of asking for additional funds, the fiscally responsible idea that I thought would work best was to give staff discretion if there is any leftover. If there is no leftover funds for that year, like I said, I would just take note that we had an uptick in requests in which events they were and how much we would recommend.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, sir.
so you're looking for approval of this program?
Yes, of just the program tonight.
I just want to make sure we get it right the first time. do you all want to amend this such that staff has that discretion with leftover funds, and it is all in one program document that everybody knows what they're living by?
Mhm.
If so, we would need to do that and bring it back, I reckon.
Yeah, table this and
I
bring it
believe
back.
there is a brief statement. Oh, if Mr. Dines actually has it up, I believe there is a brief statement alluding to it in the existing.
The Southall
Yes.
recommendation of the council, table it so it can be taken care of, okay?
That's fine. I just think what you were asking for, I think might actually be, if you're okay with it, but if you want to review it again, that's fine. We can come back. I don't know if it's this section. I believe it's Mr. Dines. If you scroll up, actually, no, it's down at the bottom where there's a whole list of all the.
Ms. Southall, I don't mean to interrupt you, but
That's fine. Yeah, we can do it next time. That works.
is there a motion to table it and when it gets clear?
I'll make a motion to table it for further review.
Second.
Other second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Votes aye. Bring it back. Thank you so much. Goods and services agreement for the scoreboard installation at King George Middle School. Ms. Dillard, good to see you.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. At the September the 3rd meeting, I presented to you the information on an IFB for a goods and service agreement for the scoreboard installation at King George Middle School. Tonight, I am asking you to authorize the county administrator to take the following action. Execute a goods and service agreement with Brooks Appliance Repair LLC in the amount of $17,900 for the installation of 2 varsity scoreboards on the baseball and softball fields at King George Middle School, subject to approval as to form by the county attorney.
Thank you. Is there any questions? Is there a motion?
I make a motion to authorize the county administrator to take the following actions. Execute a goods and service agreement with Brooks Appliance Repair LLC in the amount of $17,900 for the installation of 2 varsity scoreboards on the baseball and softball fields at King George Middle School, subject to the approval as to the form by the county attorney.
Second.
Properly second. Roll call, Mr. Sullins.
Aye.
Mr. Stroud.
Aye.
Mr. Davis.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Alrighty. Thank you.
Thank you.
9:17. It already passes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next item on the agenda for the capital improvement plan. So the public hearing has been held. The Board of Supervisors back in August reviewed and actually appropriated the funds for the CIP. Then there was a request at the September 3rd meeting for the TAP match 214-114 that was considered a couple of items ago. So previously, and then the board made a motion to reconsider the CIP. It was a 5-0 vote, so the board reconsidered that. So right now, $3,022,178 is the approved CIP amount. With the item that was heard and approved under item 9-14 of this agenda, it would add $214,114. That's the match for TAP, for a grand total for the 25 to 29 CIP, $3,236,292.
So moved.
Second.
Properly second. By roll call, Mr. Sullins.
Aye.
Mr. Stroud.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Votes aye.
Aye.
I'm sorry, Ms. Bender.
Got me.
You're so worried about me voting. I skipped you. Tired. All right. Any discussion items? Seeing none, County Administrator's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Kind of a brief county administrator's report. I've been out of the office a good number of days. So I do want to, I guess I'm now an official King George resident. My family and I closed on our house on Friday the 13th at about 4:45. So I am now a bona fide resident of King George. The deed's been recorded in the courthouse. So to the citizens out there, I definitely have a vested interest in this community, in this board, and in my staff. So very excited about that. And I really want to, give a shout out to my staff. I was out of the office for a number of days, and the office ran, and it ran well. So it's a testament to the staff to keep things moving. A couple times, Matt, I need something. That's fine. But I really want to, commend the staff for their work, and we got a great functioning team right now. So I know one item that, has been discussed is a timeline for next year's fiscal year operating budget. Now, I held a staff meeting, we call it the pit stop, on September 5th, where we talked about this. And the finance team, they've been preparing. Monday morning, a team of auditors showed up at our office here. We have 8 auditors. They're here the entire week. Really, the last 2.5, 3 weeks, the finance department has been preparing for those auditors. Their work in the office should be complete by this Friday. So after this Friday is out, finance, it was discussed, and I made the decision, let's get through the audit first. Let's at least get the auditors in and out. We're going to close out our goal is to close out the year by mid-October. But once the auditors vacate our office, hopefully at the end of this week, we will get together with finance and put together a calendar for the board at the next meeting. But they had a lot on their plate, and we had to do the audit first.
Ready? Anybody have any questions or comments for the county administrator? Seeing none, we're ready. Secondary public comment. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person in order to afford everyone an opportunity to speak. Please provide your full name and district when submitting your public comment so it can be properly included in the public record. Is there anyone that'd like to make public comment? Anybody online?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Any written since we've been here? Seeing none, I'll close it out.
I'll make a motion to adjourn to Tuesday, October 1st, 2024 at 5:30 PM in the boardroom of the Rivercombe Building.
Second. Properly seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Appreciate it. Congratulations, Mr. Dines, on your lucky win.